Can you walk me through what your first steps are when a new client walks through the door? I mean, we can do this at a couple different levels, but where do you start gathering information about someone who's maybe on the leadership track versus someone who's more sort of in the sort of rank and file workspace? What are some common areas that need strengthening skill wise, and what do you provide for them?
Yeah, for sure. So when someone reaches out for coaching, the first thing to suss out is, are you looking for career coaching or are you looking for leadership coaching?
Mm-hmm.
I like to say career coaching is for folks who are looking to make a pivot for any number of reasons.
Okay.
Often it's a toxic work environment, a work environment where they feel like they won't have opportunities to advance, or folks who are re-entering the workforce or entering the workforce for the first time.
Yep.
So kind of sussing out, do you need career coaching or leadership coaching? You love what you're doing. You know you're in the right field. You know you're in the right role, but you just want to advance where you're at. That's where we focus more on leadership coaching. From a career perspective, one of the places I think folks in general struggle the most is with networking. You often hear you have to know people these days to get a job. And to a certain extent, that's true, right? To get a foot in the door, to be able to get an introduction is always helpful. But networking turns so many people off. And I know that's how you and I met.
Yep.
And so I think that's a place of development. Also, how do you tell a compelling story about who you are and what's the differentiated value you bring to the table? A lot of people, most people don't like to sell themselves, especially women. We feel like, we can't toot our own horn. There's kind of a double-edged sword there for us. But then on the leadership side, I think the place folks struggle with is seeing empathy and compassion as a weakness when it's really a strength in terms of leadership, but also communication. The way that we communicate, we assume is the way everyone wants to be communicated with. But a big part of what we do in leadership coaching is recognizing the way I communicate, what motivates me, while I'm biased to assume this is how everybody wants to be communicated with and it's what motivates them. There's so many different ways to do it. And so being able to look at communication and motivation as more of a precision tool than a one size fits all is something that we work with clients on a lot, which is really just rooted in self-awareness.
It's interesting. I mean, this is just pinged in my head and it could be completely wrong, but it seems like with leadership development, you're almost kind of giving them the skills that like a therapist or a counselor would have or something, where you know, like you said, you're not just doing your sort of manager boilerplate, you're sort of listening in and then calibrating your message accordingly. Is there a similar sort of way of sort of communicating like that?
Absolutely. I like to say I was trained to listen for a living. So a lot of times a client will come into a session and they'll share a whole bunch of stuff and they're like, oh my gosh, I just brain dumped on you for 20 minutes. I'm so sorry. Did you follow? I'm like, it's my job to follow. Yes. And now let's pull on some of those threads. I think the main difference I know the main difference between therapy and coaching is therapy is really looking to make meaning of what's happened to a person. So what got them to that point? To unpack it, to validate it, affirm it. And with coaching, I want to honor all of that, right? But we're not going to unpack the suitcase of mom and dad and brother and sister and past relationships, but we are going to use it to inform how we springboard you forward to where it is that you want to go. And so the skill set that I use is the same, but the goals are quite different.
Yeah, I imagine that if you are a first-time manager and you have a team where one person, cries every time something goes wrong, and another person who lies every time that they miss a deadline, it's going to be very overwhelming to sort of craft messages that work for and sort of feel like you've done the right thing and stuff like that. So,
yeah, and it's Brene Brown. I don't know how familiar, Chris, you are with her, but Dr. Brene Brown, one of the things that she says is, a phrase or something that we can say often won't make that much of an impact if we're trying to offer solutions to that crying employee or the employee that lies because they don't have another set of tools to be able to say, I need an extension or I'm overwhelmed.
Right.
The very best thing to be able to do in that moment is say, thank you for so much for sharing with me that you're overwhelmed. Or is it, I'm getting the sense you may be overwhelmed by this feedback or by this deadline. How can I best support you? Yep. We don't have to have the answers for them as leaders and as managers, but we have to give them the space to develop their own solutions we can help them implement.
Have you seen Work Bites, the new security awareness training series from Infosec? Our team produced this series with 3 E's in mind, making security awareness training entertaining, engaging, and educational. Just go to infosecinstitute.com/free to learn more about this hilarious office comedy. And hey, let us know what you think about it.